Today we're going to show you how to make fermented carrots using salt and water and, of course, carrots. These are not pickled, they're not canned. They have a vinegar taste, but all we use is salt and water for a brine, and nothing is boiled. So you're going to need some clean jars. The amount of jars depends on how many carrots you have. Salt, you're going to want a salt that doesn't have any additives in it. So I use just this, I'll find whatever kind of regular salt that I can find. You have to make sure it has no additives because most salt does. You just want salt as your ingredients. So carrots, the type of carrots you want, you can use garden carrots, you can use store-bought carrots. What you want to do if you're using garden carrots, I don't recommend peeling them because the bacteria that lives on the surface of the carrots is going to help with your fermentation. If you're buying store-bought carrots that aren't organic, they could be drenched in things or have who knows what sprayed on them, I don't know, then I would recommend peeling because those things can inhibit fermentation. The temperature of your room for fermentation, you want 18 to 21 degrees about. The cooler your room, the longer fermentation is going to take. The warmer, the shorter it will take. So it's like, I don't know, 20 degrees in here. And my carrots usually take, like, I would say 10 days, probably 10 days to 2 weeks. The way you're going to know that your carrots are ready is by taste. You're going to taste them. So these are garden carrots. Like I said, I don't peel them. We are going to pack them in a jar. The way that I like to do it is to put my jar on its side and then load the carrots in this way. And for me, my favorite way to have carrots, fermented carrots, is to have them with garlic and dill. For whatever reason, I don't have dill in my freezer right now, so we're just going to do garlic and it'll be delicious. These carrots, I didn't even scrub them really hard. I washed them with just my hands, and that's all you really need to do. You need to have a clean jar. You don't need to sterilize it, but it needs to be clean. This won't take too long. Just stuff my carrots in there. And then I'm going to get some garlic. You can grate your garlic, or you can just leave whole cloves in there, which is what I usually do. These ones are pretty big, so I might cut them in half. So I'm just going to cut this in half. These cloves are pretty potent. I've also used our freeze-dried garlic. If you guys have a freeze dryer and you freeze-dry garlic, it works just fine in this too. Same with things from the freezer. I keep my dill in the freezer and it works just fine and ferments as well. So we have this. For certain vegetables, you want a little bit of crunch to them. Carrots, I don't find I have an issue with them going soft, but you can put something that has tannins in it in your jar to help keep things nice and crisp, especially for cucumbers. I find I always like to use, you can use bay leaves, grape leaves, raspberry leaves. Those all have tannins in them, and that's what keeps your vegetables crisp. So I'll just show you guys. You don't need this, but it's just something I like to do. That's a bay leaf, a dried bay leaf. So the only brine we use for fermenting is water and salt. And I don't use a scale for this because I'm pretty confident in my skills, but when you're starting out, it's a good idea to use a scale because you want your brine to be 2.5% salt content. So you're going to add your water to your jar. You will hopefully have zeroed your scale with the jar on it first. So you're just taking the weight of the water and the carrots, not the jar itself. So that was 632 grams. And so you're going to go 632 times 0.025. So that gives me times 0.025. That gives me 15.8. So I'll put 16 grams of salt in here. So this is what I'll use to measure my salt. Zero the scale. Now I'm going to pour in 16 grams of salt. And in all honesty, you're going to get so comfortable with this that you're not even going to be measuring. So we're going to add that to our carrots. If you have dill, shove it in there because it's so good with dill. We're gonna put a clean lid on. You can use any kind of lid that screws fairly tightly. And I like to give it a shake. You wanna mix the salt up. If you're using a pickling salt, which is more coarse flakes, then you can warm up some of the water and dissolve the salt in it before you add it in here. But this is fine salt, so just shake it up and the salt will dissolve. What's important is have your vegetables submerged under the brine. You want the brine to be covering the top of your vegetables. And now it can be hard to keep certain things under the brine. I'm just kind of pushing these under the ledge of the jar right here, and they stay under. So there's a few things you can do. You can make sure that every day you're flipping your jar to get that brine over top and kill any yeast that might be sitting on top of the surface. You can do that just by doing this like a couple times, once a day. But what I like to do is you can find these little glass weights, fermentation weights. You can find them on Amazon. I know people have found them at Walmart. If you're in Canada, PV Mart always has these, and they just fit in your jar and they hold everything underneath the brine really nice. So once you've done all of this, your carrots are ready to just sit on the counter and ferment. All you are going to do for the next week or two is peek in on here. After a few days, you're going to open your lid and you're going to notice some bubbles forming on the top. That is good. If your brine starts to turn cloudy, that is good. That is lactic acid bacteria doing its thing. So cloudy is good. And you want to open this lid every couple of days to release any air, because otherwise it'll leak all over your counter for you. And mine tends to do that for me all the time. And that is good. It means it's healthy and it's growing and it's fermenting the way it should be. After it's done on the counter, so I would say after about a week, you can start tasting it. It's going to taste a lot like a pickle. If you've ever had a pickled carrot, it's going to taste a lot like that. It's amazing how it takes on kind of a vinegary sour taste. Check in on it for after about a week, taste it. When it tastes really good to you, then put it in your fridge. You don't need to store it in your fridge. You can put it anywhere cool. If you have a root cellar, anywhere that is just cool. It will continue to ferment very, very slowly at a very slow rate in your fridge or in cold storage, and that's okay. It'll just get more tangy over time. We've had our carrots in the cooler or in the fridge for about a year, and they always get eaten before then. But they last just fine for a year for us in the fridge. So this is another way to preserve vegetables. So the reason we prefer fermenting things over canning is because fermentation increases the nutritional value in a lot of things, whereas canning decreases it and kills a lot of the good bacteria off and kills a lot of the nutritional content off. It's not that we don't like canning, but it takes a lot more time. It makes a bigger mess in your kitchen. And it is harder for me to do when I have young kids around. It takes up a lot more time. With fermentation, you do need to store your jars somewhere cool. It doesn't have to be a fridge. If you have a root cellar or a cooler or anything like that, you can put your jars in there. They will continue to ferment even in the fridge, but at a much, much slower rate. I would say they would keep good for about a year. We've never had it go past a year because we always eat it like quite a bit before then, but I have had jars that have been in the fridge for a year and they've been fine after that. Okay, so I will show you a jar of fermented carrots I did. This must have been in, I want to say August. We've eaten some of these already. You can see that's why the brine is so low. There's dill in there. If you can see this cloudy stuff on the bottom, that's just spent lactic acid bacteria. And that is perfectly fine. That's good to see. So we will open this up and I'll just show you. Our kids love this. The way we feed our kids fermented pickles and carrots is just straight from the jar. They don't know the difference. So here's a carrot. I'll just show you how crisp it is. If you heard that snap, it's good. It's delicious. Thank you guys for watching. I am used to talking to toddlers all day long, so I am not the most well-spoken person anymore. These are probably our favorite ferment in our household. We also do a lot of kimchi, which is basically a spicy sauerkraut. We do cucumbers and we make them into dill dill pickles. They taste exactly like dill pickles, but better, I would say. My kids love those also. Sourdough, I make sourdough almost every day. And apple cider vinegar. This was a new one for me this year. If you guys are interested in any of that, let me know in the comments. If there's anything else you'd like to see, let me know. Thank you very much. We're getting ready to do my first YouTube video, and I've been pretty hesitant about doing this. I still don't know if it's something I really want to do, but there's something going on in my kitchen, and I think it might be worth it. What were you doing in here?
Nothing.
He cleaned my kitchen.